Hi, it's Friday morning at 10 o'clock. How about that? Right on time. I didn't expect to be on time, but I am. So there. Um, yeah, so there, whatever. I said the wait. Well, this is not a good start. I just said the forbidden word. Hi, I'm on. Oh, thanks for joining in so quickly. How are you doing today? I appreciate you dropping in. I'm going to be, I'm doing little things to start here. I painted the bases. As you can see, I wasted a whole lot of this brown paint painting the bases, but apparently my spray painting aim was way off. So there, now Sulu and Spock have things on which to stand that match the color of the base, the base circle that that is the bridge. So yeah. Okay, well, bending the rules, as long as you don't break the rules, you don't want to just like break them and become, break the game. But what's your idea? What's your idea for a spell? Oh, an interaction of the spell with some of your abilities. That sounds interesting. What I'm going to be doing today is maybe working on the heads a little bit. I got Kirk's torso paint primed. A whip. You don't think, other than Indiana Jones, right? Because in the movies he used a whip all the time. Other than that, you don't much think of a whip as a weapon, or at least that isn't a very effective one. So that's kind of interesting. Huh. Okay, well, that makes it even more frightening. That's pretty fun. I like that. So I'm going to put this decal on one of the. I don't need the serial number, but I'm going to put this on the back of one of the panels. Why not? Because it's tells everybody that it's trademarked. Yeah, there's lots of reasons why a snake. I mean, it could be hibernating. It could be under a trance. It could just be a pet snake that's cooperating and thinks that being a whip is just a whole lot of fun. That's a cool thing to do. Why not? Well, yeah. I mean, it really wouldn't. But when you're trying to explain why that's the case. Oh, excuse me. The construction that's going on around here has disrupted sleep patterns significantly. I'm going to do some little stuff here today just to get started. And those little things, before I take a circle on, I'm going to be bringing this circle. So I have an opportunity to stand up and wander off screen a little bit. Oh, that would be fun. That's a fun effect. I like that. Just disappears into like a poof of ash. So would you use the whip as a weapon in some way? So I'm going to bring this circle back, which is over there on a shelf, and attempt to put these panels on it. I'm saying attempt because that is what I want to do. want to get those panels onto it, but I don't know whether I'm going to be successful or not. But first, I'm going to do a couple of other things. It's kind of like a warm up to see. Okay. That's part of her role as an entertainer. That's pretty fun. These are the pieces of the railings and the heads. I need to work on the heads and attach them to the bodies at some point. What can you do? Do a demo for us. I forgot about those. I should put these in the box too, so they're not just flopping around. It's Sulu and Spock's bodies. That's Sulu and Spock's heads that are not attached to the bodies. These came out okay. I spent a good deal of time getting rid of the seams on the sides of the bodies after the front and the back were glued together. I need to mess around with the heads too, but Kirk's torso, the arms were separate, and I attached them and filled it in. And I need to see if this is after it's been primed. Yeah, I need to see how well those filled in. It looks okay, except back here it doesn't look good. I didn't smooth that out very well. So you can see the putty. You know, that's why it's important to prime these before moving on, because the putty is in there, but it forms like still a ridge there. So I'm actually going to use the head magnifiers to see what's going on and see if I can fix that, and then decide whether enough has been taken off. Yeah. What I'm working on here is this right there. You can see the line where it's not smooth. Something's happening. Yeah, so I filled in the gap, but the filler wasn't sanded smooth. The rest of it extends down a little bit, and I couldn't really see that until it was primed. Something's got you can't hear them because of the filter on the microphone, but something's got the dogs all riled up. It looks like that gap's not filled in. That was a real problem to begin with. The shoulder was malformed. I might just zap a little bit of primer on there again. And then there's a little lump there. Getting these attached and making them look sort of normal as opposed to just action figure-like arms is Sorry, I'm bent over and trying to. Oh, I'm on camera. Huh. Okay, so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And after I primed them, I'm seeing some, unnatural shoulder issues here that I'm trying to rub out. Literally rubbing it out. Literally is a word that has literally been misused, I have to say. Quite a few words are being misused. There have been changes in grammatical usage, which happens over time. But for some time, it's faded a little bit. But several years ago, literally was just being used just constantly, and not in its literal sense. It's literally this and literally that, and then like really this or really that, as opposed to literally. But there it was. But that's the use of the word literal or literally. It wasn't literally literal. It was literally. Seems to have faded away. There's been one other change in grammar. This persistent incorrect use of grammar. Okay. The use of me instead of I. Me and my brother. Me and my wife. No, it's my wife. Anybody who's learned any grammar at all knows that it's when you're using it as a the subject of a sentence, like I am going to the store, right? As an active participant, it's I, and you put yourself second after the other person or persons you're talking about. So it's like my brother and I are going to the store. Okay. My wife and I are going out for dinner. My friends and I are going to do this or that. But over the last few years, everybody is saying, me and my wife are doing this. Me and my friends are doing this. Me and my buddies are doing that. Okay. No, that's totally wrong. So there was one way somebody once, published this to tell whether to say I or me. And that is to get rid of the other person and see if it sounds right. So it's like, give it to I. No. So you don't say like, push that chair over to Bill and I. Okay. People might say that, push it over to Bill and I. But if you get rid of Bill and you say, push that chair over to I, it's obvious that that's wrong, and it should be me. Push that chair over to me, so it's push that chair over to Bill and me, which is the correct grammatical way of saying it. So if you use the same rule, when you're talking about an action thing, so instead of saying, my friend and I are going to the store, you get rid of my friend and you say, I am going to the store instead of that. But if you say me and my friend, then it's like me, I'm going to the store. And it's obviously wrong. So I don't know how that started, but it's like 100% incorrect grammar. And me and everybody else is saying it wrong. And if you get rid of and everybody else and say me is getting it wrong, it's pretty obvious that that's not the way it should be said. So I have to go on. I'm going to go on to that rant. That is just really, really, it's really wrong. And it's clearly wrong. And it's persistent. So don't say it that way. Say it correctly. The other thing that's happened in grammar is the way overuse of myself. Instead of just saying me, people are saying myself. Why? What's wrong with the old one-syllable word? I think these little bits of sanding down might have gotten rid of the issues. I probably should zap that with a little bit of primer again before painting it, just to make sure that the paint color is consistent and so on. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just sort of sit it up, put it back on this piece of cardboard like it was before. Yeah. Got this wad of tape. I'll just use this wad of tape. I can't use that wad of tape. It's all wadded up. The Kirk figure is going to be right in the middle of everything, and people are going to be looking at it and they'll go, well, this model is like a B, maybe even a B plus, but why is Kirk got these gaps between his arms and his body? Makes him look like a cheap action figure. Not even an expensive action figure, just a cheap action figure. And so there, I did some more sanding, and I'm probably going to just spritz this. That's an official modeling word. I'm probably just going to put a little bit of primer, just right down here in the basement, and fill the air with toxic fumes. Why not? Wandering around today, so that was one wandering, was putting the head magnifiers away. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to do this thing that you shouldn't do except in a well-ventilated area, but I'm going to just do it anyway, just to get on with it here. What I shouldn't be doing is wandering off, taking this guy here and putting it on here and giving it a really quick little spray of primer to see if I have in fact succeeded in making the shoulders look more like normal. So here, you can look at this. You can look at this while I'm doing that. That's what I'll be working on soon. But better, my aim was better, but it wasn't. But it's got primer on it now. And wow, through the course of things, I've accumulated quite a pile of paper towels. I don't need to pull any more off the roll, that's for sure. Sheets of paper towels. I can those up over here. Partial sheets of paper towels that I can use for cleaning brushes. If I ever get around to painting anything again. I'll show you these things. These are the panels. They came out okay. They all look pretty okay. Yep. And then there's a couple more. Got those over here. Actually, if I get rid of the trash, there's more room. Trash on the floor. And there's another box here. These have yet more panels in them, and the chairs. These aren't quite right. I got the curve. I figured out how to do that, and I'm pretty happy about that. But the top should be black and the bottom should be lighter blue. So the colors aren't quite right. The design is right. I mean, the curve on that came out really quite well on all of these, but this should be darker and that should be lighter. But what you're going to do, right? Okay, so I've got this this copyright decal, and I'm going to put it. Will it fit there? No, it's a little too big. Will it fit on the back of the elevator? It just makes it. Just makes it on the back of the elevator. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this on. Because why not? The backs of all of these are going to be showing. So I'm going to do this. I told everybody not to do it this way. Okay. What I've told everybody is don't just drop the decal in the water and let it float. Don't just do that because, you know, bad things can happen. It'll come off. It'll float around. But I'm going to start it by doing that. I'm going to stick it in the water and see what happens to that. And then it's going to go here. It's one of the partial ones here. It's just, you know, it's one of those shortcuts that's going to go bad. You just know, you absolutely just know that that's going to go bad. So knowing that, I mean, it's sitting there getting wet, is I'm going to do it the right way, which is to set it on a paper towel that's soaking wet. And if it comes loose from the underlying paper here, yeah, instead of in there, so there. But it's, you know, it's pretty damp already, so it just has to sit here for a while. It's a big decal, so you all get to watch it. You know, usually what you're doing is you're watching things dry. You know, you're watching paint dry. That's kind of a standard trope here. So instead of watching paint dry, what we're doing is watching a decal get wet. It's like an opposite thing. And after I apply this, well, there's nothing to be done except attach all of those panels that I showed you. These 3 plus these 5 to the circular base of the command bridge. Just has to be done, and in order to finish it. So I guess I'm going to get on with that, I guess. Yeah, this is the top, so I'll put it up here. Try to get it so it's level. Here, I'm going to get real compulsive about this. I don't know why. Block of familiars. Yeah. Top of the decal is there. One short of that. Really pretty good. Huh. That's kind of a surprise. Okay, well, this is trash too now. And this, I'll just dab this, push it down a little bit. The bubbles out of it. There. Now everybody's going to know that when this model is completed and you look at it, that that these are trademarks and that it's reserved by Paramount Pictures. I don't know why I put that on, but it was a decal. And this way, this because I'm showing, I guess it's a good thing to do, because I'm actually streaming this. I can't say that I'm streaming this for commercial gain because, I'm not making any money on this. But yeah, in case, just, I'm protecting myself by making sure that everybody knows that when I talk about Star Trek and Enterprise and I say those words, that I know that they are trademarked by Paramount Pictures, or at least they were back in 1991. I don't even know if Paramount Pictures exists anymore because all these things all of these things end up getting purchased and, merged and stuff. Corner of this decal. Really? Yeah, the lower right-hand corner is messed up. There it is. An S and a period at the end that was folded under. Yeah. Didn't want to screw up my very last decal. So there's an all rights reserved trademark designation, copyright registered, all sorts of things, trademarked, registered, and copyrighted. Yeah, their lawyers were busy there. Okay. Yeah, so I did a thing. That's right. You talked about the familiars being kind of like spies for you. I think that's pretty cool. I'm going to toss this trash in the trash. It's another excuse to get up and wander around, isn't it? Instead of doing things. Make sure this goes on right side up. Be right back. Don't need the water here, do I? That's just going to be a problem. Put it over there where there's a small but still non-zero chance of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. reconnaissance. That's a really, I mean, knowing what you're getting into, if your character on behalf of the party can let them know what they're getting into, that's a great thing. Okay, yeah, this is the top. I'm just making sure it's oriented correctly because this is right side up, so this is right side up. Okay, let me get the thing. Be right back again. Probably won't be much getting up and wandering around after this. We'll see. All of the stuff in the boxes is supposed to wrap around this. It's the command location. You know, the captain has all of this room and all this stuff that they can't reach that they can look at. You know, dark orders and stuff like that. And we're supposed to all go in a particular order, like this one. This one goes here. And then this one here. So far, that's not too bad. And then, very specifically, they just don't stand up on their own. So this is why test fitting all of these is going to be kind of a challenge because they don't really stand very well. There's no, I'll show you. This is like the bottom. Okay. There's no, what would be nice, the thing I keep saying, there's no, right, without actually ever finishing the sentence, is that there's no base on them. And so there's nothing for them to attach to. I mean, they can't stand up. They just don't stand up on their own. Oh my. That was unexpected. Almost all of these. No, that's a real problem. Okay. I just discovered a significant problem. I'll show it to you in just a bit. I have to. Which one goes next? Number 14. Of course, it's 4 of them, and the one I want is Billy. It's faded. I can't see it. This is 12. This is 8. Okay, so most of these, you put them together like this, and they go together like this, right? And the edges mesh into each other. So you can't see the sides. But that's not true here. What happens here is they go like this. And look, you can see the side of the panel. So that needs to be fixed. And It's not going to be easy to do because this is spray painted on. Oh man. I mean that looks terrible. I have to do my best. I wonder if that's going to happen here on this end too, where it meets the elevator. I have to check that out. But this clearly, this very clearly um, is a problem, and it goes all the way up to here. Okay, so this thing I was hoping to get done today is not going to get done because I need to fix this, and I'm not sure what it's going to take. Um, and I carefully labeled these. You know, the 12 is pretty clear. I think that's 10. Know what this is about. I don't know why that's there. That's different than anything else. This little protuberance. Goes up against here like that. So there doesn't seem to be any need for that. It doesn't attach to anything. It just sticks out. And you can see, how well crafted these are when you put them together. They don't match up, which is another challenge that will happen. Now I'm trying to get them right in the right order. It's definitely 12. It's definitely 8. It goes here. Let's see how that goes. Oh yeah, this 10. This is the communication panel, so that's the one with all the weird things. So like was there. This one goes up against the elevator. I want to see if I've got the same sort of, oh no, this isn't going to work issue. You can see the elevator doesn't really fit very well. Wow, that doesn't. That leaves quite a gap, doesn't it? I mean, it can't go any further because it runs up against this little edge. Yeah, that panel it doesn't close in. I mean, I can make it close in like that. It might be Yeah, okay, I think that's what has to happen. But yeah, there's the same issue on the edge here. Well, this fits like this, okay, and you can see the edge of the bit. Well, yeah, these things really they don't fit. I think I can make that happen like that. If I do, those fit okay. Then the elevator, you can't see what's going on. Here. Thanks, camera guy. Thanks for actually getting things on stream. So these two go together okay, kind of. And the elevator goes like this, but then it leaves a big gap there. That can be, okay, it can be closed in. But this side is not going to be quite as challenging as the other one, because I can, if I can get a straight line across with the metallic paint, that would be okay. Okay, so I'm not going to get done what I was hoping to get done, because of an issue of how these parts go together. That issue being when this matches up against this, the side of the panel shows. And I just didn't know that. See, it's up here. Okay, so it's this side here and that side there. These guys are going to go back in here. They don't get messed up. And this, unfortunately, this needs to go back where it was. Okay. This needs to go back where it was, over there on the shelf, while I attempt to fix these issues. There's always something, isn't there? Is the thing du jour. To relabel these so that they can be seen. Okay, so what will need to be done, this side is okay, because that's going to be up against this like that. Okay, that's not a problem. This side is the problem. And what I need to do is get a nice clean line of this metallic. I'm just going to leave the red up to about there. That's where the red will stop. Maybe it needs to come down, it needs to come down to the bottom of that. So it's a clean line there. Okay, just a little bit of red. But this metallic is a spray paint, and it has a solvent in it, and that solvent is almost certainly going to dissolve the color underneath it. So I need to get some primer on there. And the same thing happens here. Okay, on this side, except that the problem is bigger because it goes all the way back here. And I need to paint this beige color onto this here. Okay. There's no way I'm going to be able to, I could very, very carefully mask all of this. Okay, just mask all of this and prime this and then mask that and spray paint it on. It's possible, theoretically possible to do that. Wow. So the process would be to mask everything except this here. I just mask everything. Prime it, paint the beige because it doesn't go up high enough. Then mask everything except the little strip there and do that on both sides. I don't know that there's, to try to do it by hand. That was just unexpected. And so the moral of that story is just test fit everything so that when it comes time for final painting, you get it right. I'm going to try the masking on this one and see how it goes. But then what this is going to mean is, as you've seen before, this is like a multi-step process because of the different colors that need to be painted on there. So it's primed. Okay, there's a prime. That's one layer. And then the beige is painted on. And then the metallic is painted on. I think most of the masking will just remain the entire time. There's something happening. Somebody's drilling something somehow into the here. Some sort of construction is occurring. I'm pretty much just going to paint the whole side again. Okay. Well, I just have to say this is not what I was expecting to do today. Is spending a lot of time remasking this, but it just needs to be done, and I'm deciding. I have decided to try to do it the right way, which is to do multiple layers of spray painting. I need to cover this whole thing very carefully. Um, so that the only thing that's showing is here. So what I could be doing is I could be attempting to hand paint the beige and then hand paint the metallic gray, but these paints don't behave like that. And so I'm going to have to put a primer on it. So what I'm going to do, while it's masked like this, okay, so I'm going to prime this whole section here, and then paint the whole thing this beige color. And then I'm going to mask just everything, basically leaving the tape on as it is, but adding a line right across here, and then painting that tiny little bit. And then doing the same thing here. That's the right way to do it, but it puts me, this has happened so many times before, it it puts me like an entire stream, two streams actually, behind. I might do this whole thing over the weekend. You know, what I might do is, instead of just taking up time on Monday, is prime it, paint it, put the little extra tape across there after that's done, and then paint the metallic on it, and do all of that over the weekend. So what the thing you'll miss is just this application of tape across there. And then on Monday, I'll unmask it, and hopefully it'll look okay and be able to move on with the assembly that I was planning to do today, that I'm not going to, because I'm wrapping this in paper and masking it and repainting it. Hi, who? Yeah, I might as well do a flip because, disaster struck. Yeah, I'm going to do sear. 2, 3, they're all sear. 4, 5, 6. Sear 1 for the 2. 1 over not sear. Well, once I get these masked, I'm I guess I'll go back to start working on the minifigs. Guess that's what I'll do. And then this is going to look really, really scabby because there's going to be tape all over it. Massive amounts of tape. Sounds like there's a dentist drill. It's really unpleasant sounding. Yeah, I'm just really silent. I hope somebody, family, was up there meeting with this guy who's doing the HVAC stuff. I don't have confidence that they know what they're doing. Hope what they're doing is just removing this thing, metal venting. Yeah. So if you're just sort of joining and you're saying, didn't you finish these? What are you doing? What I'm doing is that it turns out that this edge here and this edge here that are not on camera again, thanks camera guy for paying attention, and here are exposed when they are joined together. I was, saying, oh, look, you join them together like this. And I carefully fixed those so that they didn't show badly, but this abuts the elevator and this abuts the view screen, and the result is that they are visible. And so this little bit of area right here, right there, is just wrong. It's just ugly. So I need to prime this, paint it this beige color, mask it again, paint the metallic, and then unmask it. So in order to do that, everything else needs to be covered. So that it doesn't get oversprayed with all of the painting, the three levels of painting that I'm putting on this beast again. So I'm very carefully masking everything except the little bits that are going to be painted. And I decided against using shortcuts. I could have shortcutted this significantly, but I decided against that. And I'm doing it what I consider to be the right way. I'm taking 45 minutes or something. Yeah. Putting tape and paper on things that were actually done already. They were completed, but no, they're not. At least I've got a lot of this, just regular paper. These, it's kind of funny. These are things that were tax forms that were erroneously printed, wasting all sorts of printer ink. Um, Hello? Okay.
Yeah, get in the crawl space and put those wires back outside.
Oh,
Reuse them.
okay. I didn't expect you. I thought you'd be here this afternoon, so you got here earlier. Ah, okay. Well, that's good. I mean, finishing way quicker is not happening here, is it? Okay, that's good. No, help yourself. Yep. Sorry, they're the electricians who have been excellent on this job were able to come earlier today than they were planning, which is good. Okay, well, this is wrong. Using a lot of this blue painter's tape today, which is fine. Uh, you know, inexpensive, relatively speaking. And yes, I need to do the back as well because I don't want paint on it. Well, and I hope your day is going better than this day is for me. I mean, it's not bad, but it's just not this isn't what I was planning to be doing today. Okay, just slow down. I started getting impatient. Impatience had started here. I need to slow down and not be impatient. Way more tape and stuff than I need to, but this just wanting to not have more problems. Okay, so those of you who expected the assembly of this today are going to unfortunately have to be hugely disappointed because it's not happening. Because I discovered that great. discovered that parts of this are visible where I didn't think they would show. Okay, like right here, this area here is visible once it's assembled. And as you can see, it's really not well done. I was expecting it to not be visible. And so it's, not finished correctly. And I could have attempted to do some hand brushing with some spray paint to fix it. And based on my experience doing that in the past, decided no, don't do that. That will not work. And instead decided to take time to carefully mask everything except that one little area that needs to be repainted. And then over the weekend, do 3 level 3 paintings, reprime it, paint it beige, retape it, and paint that little bit of metallic bit up there. And then after that, unmask it on Monday. Unmask it on Monday and see what I've got. I've just used up like twice as much tape as I probably needed to if I'd been a little more careful, but I wanted to make sure everything was covered. I do not need the overspray to get on the finished parts because the finished parts came out well, and I don't want to have to redo them. Okay, so this looks pretty thoroughly covered, except for this bit here, primed, painted beige, taped right across there, a little bit of the metallic so that the line is correct. Unmask it, go, okay, it seems to be fixed. Move on to assembly. That's the intent. Now I need to do the same thing here on this bit. This has the same problem. This one is what really convinced me to do the spray painting bit because it goes way back to here. Okay, and this would have all had to have been covered with this beige paint, and it would not have gone well. It absolutely 100% would have not gone well. You don't want it hanging over too much. Should be using this smaller tape. It's easier to work with. Okay, that'll work. No, it won't. There, that'll work. Not having success in getting the tape on straight. This tape is just too much over the edge. Down. Otherwise, it folds down over the edge, and that isn't what I want. The tape on the decals. I hope that's not a problem. It's all about that. Damn it. Sorry. Use the bad word. I don't know how the decals will hold up to this tape. Or to any tape. So I'm going to make sure that it's not there. Okay, I'm kind of glad I thought of that before it got too far along. At least I don't have to worry about the back because the back is unpainted, so I don't have to worry about the paint coming off. That's why I can use this painter's tape on it. Maybe I should very carefully think everything through. I get too far along. It's getting close to being finished. You just have to say that as the more I'm doing them, messier it's getting, but the important thing is that it's covered. And not that it looks good, okay, because it's definitely not looking good, and I'm getting impatient, and I'm just slapping tape and all over the place, and just ugly as all get out. But there it is. Not done. That obviously needs to be covered. Using up like half a roll of tape here. Can't be too careful with the parts that would be impossible to fix. Okay. I don't want to mess up the parts that I can't fix. So, I mean, if I use 10 times more tape than I think I might need to otherwise, I'm just going to throw lots of tape on it. As opposed to having a little bit of spray sneak in just in a little spot. Does this look like absurdly overmasked? Yes, it does. And I just want to make sure everything is covered like pants and suspenders style. No, just use up all the tape, whatever. Okay, so the only thing that's showing here, I believe, and everything else is like mangled in tape and paper, is this bit here. So this is going to get primed, this whole thing, okay, this side here, covering up the metallic and stuff, and then I'm going to spray paint it this beige color, the off-white color, and then I'm going to tape right across here, exposing only that little bit there, okay, which is the top of the control panel, and then give it that metallic color. And then it should look okay when it is visible along the side of the view panel. And the same thing's happening here, as this is primed and then painted beige and then taped and then painted metallic. So how long did that take? like an hour and a half of the stream. I spent an hour and a half of the stream doing a little bit of shoulder work on Kirk's figure. And then this, as I was test fitting, these parts discovered a real significant problem of painting that I didn't know about until I got near the end. And then now I need to do a whole bunch of repair work on tiny little bits. This is where it comes up against the elevator. And then that shows. Okay, I'm going to clean things up just a bit here. And then I guess I'll work on the minifix. Let me put some of this stuff away, though. No, wander off camera just a bit here while I'm doing that. Yeah, you can look at the tape. Piece of cardboard. It makes them easier to carry. I guess I kind of want them to stay up like this, don't I? Yeah. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see if I can't get them to prop up. Otherwise, I'm trying to paint them from the side, and that usually doesn't work. See what I can do. Okay. That'll be okay. This one's much bigger and heavier. Let's see what happens. Since I'm messing around with cardboard and tape and stuff, what the heck? I'll see if I can't do something with this. Need cut off. Always fold your blade back when you're not using it, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm thinking this, I'm hoping this is a clever thing. Blade back, bend it. Make a brace like that to hold it up. Doesn't need to be attached there, it just needs to be pushed back there. So let's tape this there. There. No. Okay, that needs to be taped down here too. All right. So everything's masked except the parts that need to be painted. So I'll be priming these. Can you see them? Sort of. So I'll be priming these and then painting it that beige color. Okay. And then taping all but a little stripe there, like that. And then painting it that metallic color. And then it will look okay. But as it is, the beige didn't go up high enough, and the metallic, well, it's just a mess. Guess I'll keep that as like a handle. Okay, so today, so far, I managed to get practically nothing that I was planning to do done. Hour and a half of not getting anything I was planning to get done. I'm just picking out the paints here. Using big light. To I need to check the colors. Now here's Kirk's body. I can look at Kirk's body. Get back to that. Got these different white colors. I know it's not pearl. It's either this one or this one. Too yellow. Looks too dark, doesn't it? Looks like it's neither one of those. It's got to be. Oh yeah, it's this one. You can see it here. Light hits differently. It's insignia. Insignia white. Triple check before I start. Before I spray paint all over it. Definitely not that. Let's see what's going on. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting the right color on this, and it's definitely not that because that's way yellow. It's that, even though it looks sort of different depending on the light. Signia white. Okay. I'm going to have to get up and wander around again. Sorry. But needed to triple check. Because if I spray painted it the wrong color, it would just be the, oh no, now what? What do I do? So that's apparently this. It can't be anything other than that. Because these are the only four that I've got. Sorry, this was not at all what I was expecting to be doing today. I expected to be fumbling around, doing my best to get these parts to fit on the circle. What I was expecting to do was assemble all of this so that by the end of the stream today, this would have looked like that. It would all been put together. And then all I needed to do was then put the railings on and finish the minifigs. But no. This edge here, if you look at the picture, it's obvious that this edge of the counter here is exposed past that screen, and I didn't paint it. It's this. And that clearly is not clean. It's not looking like it should. And then the same thing happens here on the edge behind the elevator. All the rest of these were fine. So when I was test fitting them, it was okay. That's working all okay. And then it did. All right. So in the spirit of that, let me. These are all these nice panels that are done that have been being assembled, almost completed by now, except for getting the contact cement on my fingers. But no, they're not. So I'm going to set them up here out of the way so that I don't break them. These are the bits that need to be painted. I did a massive masking job on them so that it's not a disaster later. Hopefully it'll work out okay. And then unmask them on Monday after I paint them over the weekend. So I'll set these aside and get back to Kirk here. So I did some additional sanding and manipulating on the shoulders. I still can't tell. It still looks like an indentation. I can't tell. Yeah, there's like a little divot there. Tiny little divot, I think. Yeah, there is. So Kirk's shoulders are like mostly done. This is still a problem back here. It's not coming along. I'm going to use little bits of this stuff. This is much harder to sand, but I think it'll fill a little better. The two spots where there's still flaws in Kirk's shoulders. We can't have William Shatner would probably haunt me if I didn't fix his shoulders. It still shrinks a little bit when it dries. So I'm getting way too much on there, but it's okay. So on Monday, I'll sand those bits down again. Left shoulder seems to be okay. I'm not seeing any problems on the left shoulder. But there's that spot there, and on the back, the right shoulder. So this stuff will dry, and then I'll sand it down and probably give it a little zip of primer again. Yeah, well, here, let's, I might end up finishing early today, depending on how these heads go. So far, the heads have not been going all that great. I'm going to keep the brown cardboard out here because otherwise it's white on white and it's a little hard to see. So what I will be doing now is detaching the heads from their pikes and getting the seams, the mold seams that run right down the sides of each head, and the little top knots that will leave bits of plastic on the tops of the heads. I'll be trying to sand this down, and then I'm going to be seeing what can I do to get them attached to the body without looking like an action figure head, like the action figure shoulders on Kirk here that left a gap between the arm and the body. You can see the same thing happens. Same thing happens with the head, is that there's this gap. And what I was hoping is that this collar is painted black, and then this is the neck. Okay, so that works pretty well. The collar is just painted black, but don't want a gap between the head and the body. So I'm going to have to cement these on. I was hoping to paint the collar, and then cement the head on. But you can see, there's an unnatural, no, you can't see. There's an unnatural gap between the head and the body. What it should look like is that the neck is down inside of the collar and not kind of floating above it. So that means cementing these on and then sanding down the gap between the body and the collar, and then painting them as a piece. And Kirk's head doesn't isn't straight. Kirk's head is leaning to the left a little bit. Well, hi, gift to Gabby. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, hydrating. Thanks for joining in. You missed the disaster du jour, where I am behind an entire day again, because what I was planning to do, once all of these panels were finished, what I was planning to do was assemble all these panels onto the circle. And what happened was that the edges here and here of these control panels, you can kind of see it on the picture, are exposed, and I didn't take that into account, and they're not cleanly painted. They're really messy. And so I had to mask these completely, and except for this, and I need to repaint the edges of these panels. And I resisted the temptation to do that by hand with paint that would dissolve itself and make a huge mess, and just do it the right way by respraying it all. Well, this has to be done anyway. I mean, the heads, the minifigs aren't very good without their heads. So the heads need to be prepped and attached to the bodies. And we'll see how this goes. It's kind of weird that the heads are separate, but the bodies were molded in two parts, at front and back, that needed to be put together, and they came out with lots of seam marks, uneven attachment points. Just, they're not like 3D molded minifigs. They're just not very, I don't know, they're not well done. Spock has practically no neck. That's weird. It's probably going to come off and go flying across the table. Let's see if that happens. Let's see if his head goes flying across the table. Yeah, but it's weird. There's practically no neck for Spock. Is that? I don't know. Tile and sandpaper. Maybe my sanding block. There it is. I can file the sprue that's on the bottom of the neck here, because there's a lot of it. And then the bottom of the neck will probably have to be manipulated, sanding it down, because like Kirk's head doesn't fit. It leans to the side. And maybe he did. Here, I can show you. When this is put on, you can see that it's tilted. It needs to be untilted, which means this side, either the neck here needs to come down, or the neck on his head. I think his neck is bigger than it needs to be, so I'm going to sand it down this way, maybe file it down. I guess scratch marks on the bottom aren't a problem, because that's invisible. In fact, it helps adhere. It helps the adherence. I'm going to mess around with this until it's not crooked, and then I'll move on to Sulu and Spock. But I've got almost an hour left, so this will take that amount of time. It's just so slow. This kind of thing is very slow. Getting better. I need to file this off anyway. There can't be any paint on here. It has to be depainted so that the model cement sticks. It really doesn't look like him. I have to keep saying that Spock and Sulu kind of look like Spock and Sulu, but Kirk's head doesn't look like Kirk. Okay, that's not bad. That'll do. They'll think the neck is too tall. Maybe Kirk just had a big neck. Spock doesn't have one. I think that'll do. I just need to make sure that I've gotten the C marks off the side of the head, and I have to get my head magnifier out to do that. Let's see, I was working on Sulu here next. Sulu's the same situation. The paint has to come off. And after the heads are attached, they'll all need to be primed again. After the heads are attached and the seam is sanded down between the head and the rest of the body. Okay, that seems to be fitting pretty well. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So this will be again the seam marks. I need to get rid of the seam marks. I didn't get rid of the attachment on the bottom. Yeah, the sprue bit. So I need to refit this now that I have gotten rid of the protrusion. So how's Sulu look? Sulu's got a big head compared to his body. Tilted a little bit. These are not good as minifigs, I just have to say. But, if you look at the cover art, which you're not doing right now, but I could show it to you in a bit. If one looks at the cover art, they look terrible on that. So it's like the model tried to emulate the poor quality of the cover art. Yeah, once the gap is closed between neck and body, that'll be okay. And let's find out what's going on with Spock's head here. Get the sprue attachment off. Take the paint off the top of his neck and see how it looks. Well, if everything had gone well today, by now the model would be looking practically finished because all of the panels would have been attached to the circle of the bridge. But as I've said several times, that didn't happen because the edges of a couple of those panels are exposed when I didn't expect them to be. And as a result, they look terrible. So Sulu's head looks too big for its body. Spock's head, I don't know. I guess that'll fit okay. It's not tilted in any way. If it's leaning forward or backward a little bit, that's okay. But all the heads are just disproportionate. Okay, so there's that. Now I need to get the sprue marks off the tops of the heads and sand down the seams along the sides of their faces. It's really bad here. You can see a seam right along the. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's a big seam there where the two parts of the mold didn't meet up. Yeah, sanding these is going to be kind of difficult because there's nothing to grip onto. But it has to be done, otherwise they'll not only look like action figures, but they'll look like very poorly made action figures. Maybe that was the intent. So if you look at the cover art, I mean, you can see, especially Spock, especially Spock is just really, they very accurately portrayed the lack of forward back dimensionality there on the minifig. Sulu, whose figure is way bigger than on the box top, he's tiny compared to that. Spock is pretty much like Spock, but there's that. And then Kirk doesn't look like Kirk, but there we are. And of course, all of their clothes are rumpled. They lost permanent press technology when they moved into like the 25th century or whenever this is. It's pretty obvious that that permanent press clothes don't exist anymore. I don't know. Maybe they found that this is the look that they want to look all crumpled and rumpled. Okay, maybe that's what they're after. Maybe they discovered that whatever makes things permanent press is deadly, and if you didn't have it, you lived to be 197 years old instead of just like 80 something. I don't know, but it's that's the look, and the minifig models, are, especially in the back here, are rumpled, but they're not as bad as the cover art is. I'm going to have to put on my head magnifiers to sand these down because it's white on white and it's all textured because of the hair and stuff. So I'll do that. And if I can get them to the point where I'm sort of satisfied with how they're looking, I might attempt to cement them on. I don't know. Doing something like that late in the stream is always risky. But since nothing was going well today anyway, I'm probably going to end up being kind of quiet here as I make an effort to get rid of the molding seams on the tops of their heads. This one's really bad here. They seem to be bad on one side. I don't know how they did that. Usually if if it's like misregistered, okay, like this side is higher than this side, and there's a big ridge there, I can grab it with my fingernail. Usually when it's that bad, it's bad on both sides. So it's not just like the molds weren't aligned, it's that the molds weren't the same size. I'm going to end up losing some of the hair detail here. Given the lack of quality of this, I'm not sure that that's a big deal. Probably better to not have hair detail than to have ridge lines in the middle of your head. People, even Kirk didn't have a ridge line down the side of his head. He has what's called a DA, a duck, you know. See the back of his head. It comes to a point down at the bottom of his neck like that, and wrapped around his ears. That might have been how it was on the show. I don't remember. Once again, sometimes you can't see the flaws until they're painted. But I really want to get these now, because once they're attached to the body, it becomes really hard to hand out the seams without like breaking the head off again. Have to rinse these off carefully. There's a lot of sanding dust on them. Okay, that's actually coming along. Some of it depends on the rotation. You know, it looks okay with one way, and then the light catches it in a different direction. And I think that's okay. We'll do Sulu next. Why not? Really bad ridge there. Sulu's going to take a fair amount of work. Well, usually I don't. I've been running out of things to talk about while I'm doing this, but today there was plenty to talk about because disaster struck again, and I got to talk about what went wrong and what needed to be done to fix it, and how I've talked myself out of trying to do a shortcut and then decided to take the long cut way, is to say remasking it and repainting it instead of just attempting to paint over it all. And pretty sure that, unless the masking is inadequate, that the result is just going to be way better than if I had attempted to hand brush it with the spray paint. I came really close to just doing that, but then fortunately, just in time, stopped myself. I've given you a misshapen ear here. Yeah, this is another one of those where it looks okay until it's rotated. And then there's a spot right there. In this case, little scratch marks probably aren't a bad thing. It'll make it look like it's like they're hairs, hair detail. That's what I'm telling myself. But I actually think that's true in this case. It looked like I got it from this way, and then as I rotated it, when the light caught it, it's still a ridge there. I'm sighing to myself. Yeah, as you can tell, a lot of time is spent on these plastic models trying to fix problems that happen with the molding is not good. Quality control is not great. Well, that kind of ridge is right where the neck tendon is. This thing. After I'm done with this, I need to remember to turn it over and look and do the other side, right? Be sure to turn it over and do the other side. Can you see what I'm doing at all? I don't know. Let me move this down. Come on, camera guy, pay attention. Yeah, see, it looked okay, and then I rotated it, and then it's not okay. Especially right above the ear there. This is fine line where I talked about that, the mold marks, injection molding. It's two molds that come together, and then there's always a little bit of separation. between the two molds, and there's always a little line of plastic where the two molds met. Sometimes it's just really obvious and ugly, but it's always there. And so almost every part, it's either like a line like this down the middle of the part, or sometimes it's like flashing little bits that adhere to the edges. It's really obvious on the neck here. These will be a little bit of a challenge to paint, I think. And there's a fair amount of facial detail. Surprising amount of facial detail on these. Spock even has pointy ears. So despite the fact that they're not well molded, I mean, because of the seam, actually they're pretty good they're pretty good faces. So one thing, I don't know, I just run this past everybody. I'm thinking it would be kind of fun to paint these as their evil twins with goatees or whatever facial hair they had. I don't know if that's something I could pull off or not. Lose Spock's ear point. Apparently, I can't sand Spock's hair and talk at the same time. This other side has got a nice big ridge on it. the bump. Go away. Thing on the top was attached. Excuse me. This is going to be a really busy day after I'm done with this. I need to do a whole bunch of woodwork. Finishing wood. Probably a couple hours. I should make sure I eat something before that, right? I'm reminding myself now so that I remember it. Well, we'll just see how it goes. It's going to be one of those days. This isn't a relaxing day. I was hoping to have celebrated, the assembly of the command bridge, but nope, no such luck. Typically bad seam along the neck here. It's really bad there. Well, this was kind of an exciting day. I got to spend an hour remasking something that needed a tiny little bit of correction. That if I wasn't using spray paints, I could have done by hand, in a matter of just like 10 minutes or something. But no. And then I'm sanding down mold seams on the sides of minifigs heads. When I'm done with this, I'll look up at the clock and see how much time I've got left. Spot there. I'm really glad I have these head magnifiers, otherwise I would not be able to see what I'm doing at all. Okay. What I'm doing is getting a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on this paper towel so I can wipe off the standing dust from the heads. And I've got like a half hour. I could just quit early, or what I could do, and I probably will do this, is attempt to attach the heads. This late in the stream, two things are possible to really make it like screwed up. One is, the most obvious, is I could get the wrong heads on the wrong bodies. You would think that shouldn't happen, but you just never know, right? Never know what can happen with an old guy starting to fade here. This is the it doesn't look like him Kirk head. This is the standing straight up awkwardly, and this is the way too small bodied Sulu. And I am just going to leave the cardboard here. This cardboard's really mashed up. Here, let me do something. This is a thing that can be done to, preserve cardboard. This is all cut up and everything, but here it's not. So I can just turn this around, and now I've got a rejuvenated work surface, just like that. Each of these pieces of cardboard can theoretically give me 4 work surfaces, 2 on each side, like I just did. I can rotate it 180 degrees and get a more or less clean work surface here. And then I can flip it over and do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to try this and see what happens. I guess I'll do Sulu first. I'm going to apply this sparingly, but a little bit more than necessary, because I want this to melt the plastic and fill in the gap between the neck and the body as much as possible, so I don't have to use filler. It did work. It did work on the torsos, and it did ooze in. This is Sulu. That's Spock on Spock. Kirk on Kirk. This is Sulu on Sulu. I don't know if that's going to fill in or not. Filling in on the back. May or may not on the front. Yeah, it's dissolving nicely and kind of pressing down. I might have to put some sort of filler in there. I'm not sure. That might turn out okay. I don't know. We'll find out after the cement sets and I prime it. Yeah, his body is way too small. It's just weird. Trying to make sure his head is, sort of centered. Looks like there might be a little gap right under there. I'm not sure. We'll see again after the cement sets. I think I want to stand it up while it's drying. I'm going to use these. So that the head isn't like flopping over or something while the cement is setting. Yeah, I mean, given the limitations of my eyesight, it looks like it's not bad. That'll do. So there's Sulu with a head on. Put a head on Spock and see what happens there. I said an excess of cement. Turn his head just a little bit. That just doesn't look right. Their heads and bodies just don't match up very well. They just don't. I think the cement is filling it in pretty well. Again, given the limitations of my eyesight, I mean, other than the fact that the head doesn't look right and it's not primed, so it's a little different color. Sure that it's not forward just a little bit. Forward just a little bit without falling off. Because I want it to be inside the collar just a little. There. Yeah, that'll do. It looks very odd. Maybe it'll look okay when it's painted. Okay, let's stand Spock up in the sticky tack on the top of this too then. Yeah, why not? Let's stick Kirk's body on Kirk, and maybe I should get his chair out so he can sit up. Let me just do that before I do this. Get his special captain chair. Not cemented on. Um, so it swivels just like it doesn't. I don't remember ever seeing the captain's chair swivel in any Star Trek episode or in the movies. Of course, this was the original one, but it wasn't called the original series at the time because there wasn't any series, there wasn't anything else. This was it. But in this model, the chair swivels. So there. Cement at my fingers right at the end, right? Yeah, it's not tilted. It's turned a little bit, but I think that's okay. It's tilted because it is. There. We'll just have to deal with that. It looks odd with the darker raw plastic against the primer, doesn't it? His head is way too far forward. Yeah. Good thing I looked at in that direction. Yeah, but it's too far back. His head doesn't fit his body. This doesn't work well. This just isn't fitting well. I think that's an okay pose. His head is turned a little bit. Not too bad on the back. Seems to be symmetric left and right on his shoulders. Let's see how it looks. This is how it looks sitting here. There he is sitting in his chair. Yeah, right on the edge of his chair because the way this is built, it doesn't go back. Kind of sit him like that. It's not too bad. That's a good sitting pose. So I'll check the head one more time and then put him back in its chair. Yeah, left to right, okay. Front to back. Head slightly turned. Yeah, that'll be good. Good enough. Good enough. And get him as far back into his chair as it'll go. Lean back, Kirk. Okay, well, there. So let me move the camera here. And I can't put these guys very close together because the magnets on the bottom will make them fly around. But now they've got heads. Excuse me. Yeah, good camera work, camera guy. Okay, there. I know Kirk looks small because he's further from the camera, but that's, perspective or whatever it is. So a recap for today. Today was not a great day. Things were pretty ragged. I was planning to do this. I was planning to put all of these panels around the circle because they were all ready. And then I found that this edge here of this panel and this edge here behind the elevator were exposed, and they were not painted well for them to be exposed, okay? Because I thought they would be like the rest of these where it was just covered up by, where they adjoined each other. Okay, and only the little bit of seam would show a little bit, and I did some touch up on that. But this one especially was just looked really ugly. This one was not good. I thought about hand painting them with the spray paint and then thought better of it. I wouldn't get the lines straight. The stuff would dissolve into each other. So I decided to mask them, which I did, except for the bits here and here that are the parts that show. And I'm going to, over the weekend, reprime them paint them all this sort of off-white color, mask a thin little bit down where the metal counter is, and then spray that to metallic, right? So this will get all primed, all repainted this color, that painted that color. And then they should look okay, hopefully. And then on Monday, I'll unmask these, and if all is well, I'll be able to do what I was planning to do today, which is assemble this. We'll see if all is well or not. Are they going to be evil or not? What do you think, Aman? Should I paint them as though they were evil? Should I do the evil Star Trek crew, or should I just not? I mean, painting little goatees on them will be kind of a challenge, but why not? I need to get some pictures of them looking evil. Maybe that's something I can do over the weekend too. But I think it would be kind of funny to do that. It might explain their disproportionateness, why their heads, especially Sulus, why their heads are bigger than their bodies, okay, disproportionately. Why Kirk isn't sitting well in his chair. I mean, painting their faces is going to be challenging anyway, so why not? No, I think they're evil. I think they're going to be evil. The only thing that won't is, I think what happened, the evil ones had like sashes on or like big belts or something. So maybe I'll only be able to do their facial hair. On Monday, I will be unmasking those things that I just remasked after I paint them 3 primer, 1 coat, and another coat. I'll do that over the weekend. And hopefully these edges will look presentable as they are exposed in front of the panels here and here. Pulling all that tape and masking tape and paper and stuff off of them. And then do what I was planning to do today, which is to attempt to assemble these, which will not be all that easy. I started to fit these together that you can't see because of where the camera is. I started to fit these together, these 4 panels. Yeah, the evil Kirk actually was better than the real Kirk. That is pretty funny. These fit together okay. The elevator and this one did not fit together very well at all. There's a big gap here that needs to be manipulated, and if this gap is closed, then this one doesn't fit too well. So, yeah, that's pretty funny too, isn't it? You could hardly tell the difference. Evil Spock was good. I really liked Evil Spock. Yeah, so fitting these together is going to be kind of a challenge. That's why I'm going to use contact cement, because these don't have any base. There's nothing on the bottom on which it can rest. It just attaches to the round bit here, the circle. And so I need something that will hold them kind of in place, but also give me the opportunity for at least a few minutes while I attempt to arrange them so that they sort of fit. Each of these, they're not even the same. Like this one and this one, they're different heights by about like almost a 1/16 of an inch. So that when they're put up next to each other, there's a vertical gap. So again, it's like I want them to be even across the top. If they're not even, underneath here, as long as they're even on, the top and the edge, especially this edge, okay, as long as this edge here, which is painted red, is even, that's going to be important because that's really going to show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was. I like that. Yeah, it was easier for Kirk to pretend to be evil than for his opposite, evil Kirk, to pretend not to be. I guess that tells you about Kirk, doesn't it? But it didn't last very long. So yeah, I'm going to use contact cement so that they stick to the circle, to the outside of the circle, so that they don't just flop over, and then spend a good deal of time trying to get them to align with each other all the way around here. And then figure out what to do about the gap between this panel and the elevator, because there is kind of a big gap there. It's almost like it's designed to be there, right here, where this comes in contact with that. This doesn't extend, this bit right there that you can't see me pointing to. This bit right there doesn't extend far enough out that way to close the gap with this. Okay. It's like a little bit too short. And then this can't go any further this way unless I like file something down. I might have to after I play around with it a bit. So this junction here is especially challenging. And once that's met, then we'll see. But on Monday, I hope to get back to it if my painting, my restoration painting, my reconstruction painting works on these edges here and here. We'll see. Yeah. The cement on these guys is going to be setting between now and Monday, and on Monday I'll probably pretend she has a torch. I like the snake whip. That was a cool thing. So I'll probably do a little bit of sanding around the neck and then reprime them so that the head is primed as well, and then they'll be ready for painting, either evil or not. So before I wrap up, Aman, tell me what Mirage is going to do. Okay. So you use all three of those. Use packed weapon to make a torch and disguise yourself to make it look like a torch. Cool. What does the prestidigitation do? How does that blend in? So I can see how the packed weapon. Okay, got it. Create a club, set it on fire and then okay. Oh, pretend that you can use it to light a fire with the prestidigitation. Neat. I like that. Well, I want to thank you for joining in today. It was one of those things where things did not go as planned, but I think I managed to avoid making a mistake in correcting the problem. I think I managed to avoid that, and I got the heads cleaned up. I got the mold marks out of the way, and I put them on the bodies, and the heads are disproportionately large, especially Sulu's. And on Monday, I'll clean up around the necks a little bit. I think the DM. Why wouldn't the DM let you do that? As long as you've got the the mana to make, or the points necessary to use all of those spells in combination. I think combining spells is a really clever thing. But thank you for. I see. I see whether the DM would let you to see whether you can pull it off without being caught. Here, I'll move the camera out a little bit, and you can see the figures. and the thing that needs to be done. And on Monday, I'll be back, hopefully with fixed panels, this one and this one. Hope to have those edges fixed and ready to go. And these guys will be ready for final priming. I want to thank everybody. Have a good weekend, those of you who have weekends. And I'll see you at more or less 10 o'clock on Monday. Thanks, everybody. See you then. Bye, Armand. Have a good weekend.